Hi, I'm Sachin, and this is my story. My father, Anselm Viswasam, was born in a small village called Bo, Sierra Leone in West Africa on May 3rd, 1967. His parents were originally from Sri Lanka, but his father worked for the United Nations, which was developing infrastructure in developing countries in Africa. After 4 years, the family was transferred to Nigeria because a new project there arose, and they spent the next 5 years there. When my father turned 9 years old, my grandfather felt his career was disrupting his education and thought it was best for him to attend boarding school. He was then enrolled in a reputable boarding school in South India where our mother tongue Tamil was the main language. During his school breaks, he would make visits home, usually traveling alone, on planes and trains. My grandfather had retired and returned back home to Sri Lanka from his post in Africa. After 6 years of being on his own, my grandfather removed him from boarding school in India, where he continued his education. After 2 years, he had successfully completed his London advanced level exams. My mother and father met during this time as they had classes together and grew closer until they eventually started formally dating. My mother, Seshantri Viswasam, was born in Colombo, Sri Lanka on March 12, 1968. Her father was the CEO of a multinational company and was able to provide his family with a privileged lifestyle. He was one of the few members of the minority community who was successful and respected in the corporate world. My mother began attending one of the most prestigious all-girls school, and unlike my father, she remained there throughout her schooling years. During the final stretch of her education, my father and mother coincidentally shared the same chemistry tutor. There they became acquaintances and soon started dating after they both completed their A-level exams in 1987. My parents' hands became full when pursuing their goals and careers became a priority. My father was accepted into medical school in the same year and was fortunate to continue without disruption, as there was heavy political unrest on the rise as a result of conflict between the ruling party and the opposition party. This party, known as the JVP, was trying to dethrone the current government, and one of the ways they planned to do it was by terrorizing government-run institutes. Student safety was being jeopardized and universities were completely seized. This occurred while my mom was applying to dental school in 1988, and even though she was accepted, her university was incapable of resuming class with the time period being indefinite. In hope this saga would end, my mother waited a year before finally applying to dental school in India in 1989. During this time, the conflict between the two existing ethnic groups that was always present began escalating, causing more turmoil in Sri Lanka. There was significant hostility between the two groups, destroying the peace and stability of the nation. These two groups consisted of the Sinhalese people, who were the majority, and the Tamil people, who made up only 18% of the population, and believed they were treated unequal. This sparked the creation of a rebellious group called the Tamil Tigers, who fought relentlessly against the Sri Lankan government. My father and his family also belonged to the Tamil population, as they were prompted to seriously consider relocating for the purpose of seeking a better and safer future. Given the circumstances, emigration to Canada seemed the most advantageous choice to achieve this. This was a possibility only because my father's brother was already established in Canada and eligible to sponsor his parents over. Fortunately, my father was young enough to be classified as a dependent and joined them. There, the immigration was set in motion, as the paperwork and visa would take 18 months. My grandparents and my father were cleared and arrived in Canada in December 1989. My uncle, who was an architect, built an apartment on the top floor of his house in Toronto to accommodate the newcomers. My father could not continue his medical school that he had started in Sri Lanka because the foreign program was not recognized by local universities, and therefore he was forced to change his career path. He then began applying immediately and soon got acceptance to McGill University for electrical engineering in 1990. Until school started, he worked as a security guard to make some money on the side. During all this, my mother was busy completing her dental degree in India. Before my father left Sri Lanka, he and my mother agreed that it was worth continuing their relationship despite the distance. They would communicate through frequent phone calls and mailing the odd love letter. While my mother was on vacation in Australia with her sister in the summer of 1993, my father flew to Melbourne where his lover awaited him and reunited with her after being apart for 4 years. It is there where he proposed to her and decided that they would get married after finishing their education. By June 1994, my father had graduated with a degree in electrical engineering among 20% of the starting class. Although he struggled to find employment as a graduate, he began working for a small company and things started coming together. Meanwhile, my mother had earned her dental degree and had started her residency before flying over to Canada to get legally married to my father in July 1994. This would make immigration easier for her later, as she quickly returned to India to complete residency for a year. Now she was waiting a response from paperwork and sponsorship and passed time by working in Sri Lanka. My father and his family came back to Sri Lanka where the official marriage ceremonies and celebrations were held. The fact that my father was Catholic and my mother
Hindu
was caused much controversy within the family, as one Catholic church ceremony as well as a traditional Hindu ceremony took place in December 1995. Soon after the wedding, my mother was approved to immigrate to Canada, and the happy couple arrived to their new home of Canada on January 1st, 1996. Although my mother was a fully qualified dentist in Sri Lanka, she was unable to begin practicing dentistry in Canada because her qualifications were invalid here. She then had to complete the requalifying process that took her 2 years to become a licensed dental practitioner in Canada. She began practicing dentistry as an associate at a dental office in August 1998. On February 5th, 1999, I was born at Toronto General Hospital. As soon as I was old enough to attend daycare, my father set out to attain a master's degree in business at Queen's University and completed it in 2002. Soon enough, the next and final member of our family, my little sister, was born in May 2003. My mother officially became a Canadian citizen in 2004, while my father was inducted earlier in 1993. At the time, we were living in our first 3-bedroom home in Markham until we upgraded to a larger home in 2005. My mom opened her very own practice in 2008, and my father began working as a sales manager at a large company called ABB. Now that you've seen my past and its place in Canadian history, it is time to sit tight and watch the future unfold. Thanks for watching.